Hi everyone, today we'll be talking about the man, the princess, the lover, the freaking music industry, Taylor Swift. I have loved Taylor Swift from a very young age. I first listened to a song when I was in primary school. I think the first song that I heard was Mean, and she won a Grammy for it, and it was such a meaningful song as well. And I started to dive more into the life of this young artist, and she writes all her songs. And since she wrote a lot about love then, and in primary school and high school you kind of fall in love a lot, and I can relate to it a lot. And it's just when I thought nobody would understand me, understand my sorrows, my grief, Taylor was there. It's like Taylor giving me a warm hug when I listen to her song, like All Too Well, or like The Last Kiss. It's just so good. And I've been thinking she has written songs for movies, and Carolina reminded me. I actually have this book with me where the Crawdads sing, and I read it and I thought I could make a video talking about the books that Taylor wrote songs about for movies basically. So first off, we can talk about this one, which is the most recent one where the Crawdads sing, and Taylor Swift wrote this song called Carolina, and I absolutely love it because I was reading this book I think halfway through. This book basically where the Crawdads sing is about a girl named Kaya, and she is known as the Marsh Girl, and she lives on a coast, I think, like the marsh of Carolina. And this song is basically about how the marsh knows all of Kaya's secrets, and it protects her, and also Kaya protects the marsh as well. She's kind of like an outcast. People in the town think of her as like the marsh girl, and thinks of her like an inferior human being. But to be honest, I think Kaya was really amazing because she didn't go to school. She went to school for one day out of law, but people there bully her and she didn't go back. But she learned how to read, she learned how to draw, and she was basically living on her own because her parents abandoned her. Basically many people abandoned her, and she was becoming this strong independent woman all by herself. And it was so motivating, while some people think it might be unbelievable because you can't possibly learn how to read and write all by yourself. And she became like a very famous author in the end for biology books as well, because she kept all these drawings of marsh creatures, and a lot of people find that unbelievable. But I think it's a nice story. I don't think it's based on a true event, but it's a really nice story. And Taylor wrote this song Carolina for it, and the way she writes song is just so emotional. It brings so much emotion, and I think it also gave away the ending a little, because if you listen closely to some of the lyrics about how she'll fight back and things like that, that's actually what happens in this book, and I really love it. It was such a book that kept me on the tip of my toes to the very end, and I knew there would be a plot twist coming. I just didn't know what the plot twist would be, and it kept me on the toes till like the very last page, like literally the very last page. And this book, I really like it. It was highly acclaimed, and I think rightly so. And the way that Taylor Swift wrote about the song Carolina, like the musicality of it, the way she uses instruments and everything, just makes me feel like I'm in proximity to the swamp, to the marsh when I'm listening to the song. I just don't know how she does it. This woman can do everything, including reminding me that I bought this book for over a year. So she is the queen. She is, oh, I don't even know what to say. She's just, I love her so much. On the list we have is Safe and Sound by Taylor Swift, and she wrote it for Hunger Games. Absolutely love this movie, love the books, and I freaking love the song. Like, I read the books first and then I watched the movies, which I love. I remember reading Hunger Games and I couldn't put it down, and that was when I was at school. And then I remember I wanted to read Catching Fire, and I was on a day trip, I think, to Hong Kong. And you know, when you're like traveling, you should be admiring the scenery, the landmarks, and like, you know, the icons of a place. I brought Catching Fire with me, and I just couldn't put it down. And whenever we had a stop, I just stopped. I need to find a bench, and I just sat down and read the book instead. It was such a fun time, but it was such a good book. My favorite out of the three is Catching Fire. And then Mockingjay was okay, but I think it was more about politics than the actual games itself, and I like the games a bit more, but I do understand like how this three books put together makes it like a really good story, which it is. And Taylor Swift wrote the song Safe and Sound for the first book, The Hunger Games. And you know, when you read about the Hunger Games, it's about 12 districts, and then each year 2 tributes, one boy and one girl, are picked to participate in this game where they kill each other until one victor is left. Katniss, the main character here, volunteers to be tribute when her sister got picked, and then you can feel like how desperate it is, like how sad it is, and how like you can see like the true colors of the people in the series and the games. And like Taylor Swift wrote a song Safe and Sound. Yeah, she does it again, like with the music, with the instruments and everything. She makes you feel the sadness, the like how desperate people are, and how unfair everything is. And the music video also gives off that vibe. I just don't know how she does it. It's just so amazing. I'm so glad she wrote like the song for the series, because it's been my favorite song for quite a while, and Hunger Games is definitely one of my favorite series. I couldn't put it down. If you haven't read it, I highly recommend you to read the book. The movie is also good, and I love Jennifer Lawrence. She's kind of my favorite actress. She is Katniss, and she's also in X-Men as Mystique, which is also my favorite character. I just love how like my favorite characters in fictional like comic books or fictional novels, and then my favorite actors or actresses portray them, and then my favorite artists write songs for my favorite movies and favorite books. It's just like everything is coming together, and it's just so good. I just love this combo. Third on the list, which is kind of last for the movies for me, is I Don't Want to Live Forever, and she sang it with Zayn. And when it came out, I was like, oh, what is going on? Like, Taylor Swift don't really write a lot of songs for movies, and she did this and with Zayn, and it just blew my mind away. But I think that 50 Shades of Grey, they actually managed to get really famous and well-known singers to sing like the theme song. I just don't get it why. I mean, the movies aren't that great to me. The books are better, although it's like an erotica. I do think it talks a lot about abuse or like caring for each other and other elements besides, you know, the obvious like, you know, here and there parts. But I don't really like the movies, because when I read the book, the movies weren't out yet, and I really pictured Anna and Christian like totally differently. But I guess maybe the director had something else in mind for these characters. I mean, they still did the things that like were talked about in books, like how Anna was initially shy and then Christian is this billionaire and things like that. But like, it's just the chemistry doesn't feel that right to me. But for Twilight, I do love Edward. I think the casting is perfect, but it's just for Christian and Anna, I feel like it's a little bit off. But they did manage to get like really famous artists to sing the song. I think the first song was Love Me Like You Do by Ellie Goulding, and it was also like a really well-known singer. Or was it the third movie? I don't remember. Zayn and Taylor wrote a song for the second movie, which is 50 Shades Darker. That song was also really good. The music video is obviously very good production as well. This song is less about the feeling, like how she did it in Where the Crawdads Sing in Hunger Games, and more about, I think, the production and like how famous the movie is. So that might be kind of the bottom of the list for me out of this 3 songs, but I think it's still definitely a really catchy piece, a really nice piece, and the lyrics still portray what happens in the movies and also in the books, which is really nice as well. And there we have it. We talked about the 3 books that Taylor wrote songs for. I do want to make a video about books that Taylor wrote songs about, as in she based these songs off these books and not for them. And for example, I think for Happiness, she wrote it based on The Great Gatsby, and then some people said Tolerated was based on Rebecca, and there were some other books, some other songs in Reputation, Folklore, that she based it on really famous books as well, classics. So let me know if you want to watch that video, and I'll definitely put it on my to-do list. So if you have any other video ideas, you can also let me know, and I'll try my best to make it happen. I am trying to bring book review back because I really want to get myself to read more, and I think I don't want to give myself an excuse not to do that anymore, since I do have some more spare time. Since when you go to uni, it's always a lot of work, and even if it's nighttime, you feel like you should be working, but now when you have a job, after you go home, you don't have access to like the work laptops and everything. Even if you want to work, like this is like free time. So I think it's good to read more books and kind of improve myself, and whether it's fiction or non-fiction, like learn more about different things. So let me know if you have any ideas, and if you like videos like this, don't forget to like and subscribe, and I'll see you next time. Bye.